This is Unedited, and it is episode 28. I'm Ethan. That's Jordan.
First episode of 2025.
Ooh, let's go,
baby. Are you ready for it?
Oh, yeah. Did you have a good holidays?
I did, actually. It was nice. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It got a little busy towards the end, but for the most part, the good part, though, was everyone was pretty good throughout it. I remember, like, last Christmas, I was, like, in bed for, like, 9 days.
Sick like a dog.
Yeah, so I got off a bit lucky this year. I feel bad for some people who didn't, though. I had friends who didn't. But how'd you do?
Because you gave them something?
No, it wasn't me.
It wasn't tampering?
No.
Okay. All right.
How'd you do?
Good.
Yeah?
It was a good time, man. I had like 2 weeks off.
That's
just
good.
Doing nothing.
That's amazing.
Killing time. Went to Kindersley where Alyssa's family is, and we just hung out with family. We got to see all of her sisters. Not always a guaranteed as people get older, you know. Not everybody's going home every Christmas. So that was great.
That's cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I got a couple things. I got some records.
Okay.
Obviously, I got some records.
As if it's a given, by the way, that people get Christmas gifts. But I know you got stuff, so tell me about it.
I got some records. Yeah, got a very... I wanted an old Joni Mitchell album. Got that one. Got a Bob Dylan record.
Oh.
And a couple by REM. I don't know if you remember the band REM.
Nope. Of course I do.
Yes, I love REM. I'm kind of like... And I got a book, actually, a biography on REM that I read. 400 and some pages. I got like 30 pages left.
Whoa.
So I kind of went crazy on that book during the holiday season.
Okay.
And I also got this sweater. This Blizzard sweater from
Northern
my nephew.
Manitoba Blizzard.
Yeah, junior A hockey team. So they used to be called the OCN Blizzard up in the Pas, like that area.
What did that stand for?
That stood for the Opaskwayak Cree Nation. And they sold the team a few years back. They kept the same name, but then new ownership took it over and wanted to make the team more of like a Northern Manitoba thing.
Yeah.
To kind of include Thompson and some of the other places.
Yeah.
So they just named them Northern Manitoba.
Yeah.
And he was buying from me this year because on that side of the family, typically we just pick a name and you spend X amount of dollars.
Yep.
So I knew he lived there, and I'm like, if you could find me a Blizzard sweater, I'd love it. And I think he picked the best one. So
it's beautiful.
I like it.
Only set him back $1,600.
Exactly.
It's very nice.
Yeah. He has to work extra hours for the next 3 months. But
it's the sort of family you guys are. Everybody picks a name. 1,600 is the max. Don't go over.
That's the max. Yes. Minimum 500.
Minimum.
So, but other than that.
Well, speaking of junior hockey, I think it's a tradition for both of us to watch the World Juniors.
It is.
And what do you think this year?
Well, you know what, man? I'm going to be honest with you here. It was frustrating. It was tough to watch, right?
Tough games.
I'm at the point now, though, where next year I'm just going in that we're one of 5 teams that can win this thing.
Yeah.
And we got to just remember that the rest of the countries are catching up, right?
Big time.
Whatever Hockey Canada is doing, this team was the most undisciplined team I've ever seen.
Talking about Team Canada.
Yeah, they were constantly in the penalty box the whole time. And in fact, TSN was showing stats after like the first 4 games, we had 17 penalties and the next team had 6. Like the next team penalized more had 6, right? And we only got worse as the thing went on. So it was tough seeing us lose that game, losing to the Czechs twice in a row, especially the same way where they score really late in the third frame.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was a little disappointing. It reminded me of last year, the disappointment all over again. And I feel bad for the guys because obviously the players, they're way more disappointed than we are.
Yeah.
But
I mean, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Still a very good team.
Yes.
Like very good hockey.
Group, 100%.
The reason I watch hockey once a year committedly is because I'm at home with my father-in-law and he'll watch it with me.
Yeah.
And it is the only hockey that I like to watch now.
It's the best tournament of the year, in my opinion.
I can't even watch NHL after watching World Juniors.
Okay.
The pacing and the intensity and just like the amount of like these guys are just flying. They move around on the ice like fairies, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's my favorite tournament. I would agree with you. It's my favorite hockey of the year.
What do you think of?
Maybe that's why it hurts when they don't.
There you go.
At least
when Canada doesn't pull through.
Get to the semis, like you know what I mean. Like we got out early this year.
Yeah.
What were you gonna ask me?
Well, what do you think of Latvia?
I love Latvia's story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a little annoyed when they beat us, but how can you be annoyed? Like I was like celebrating with them.
Dude.
I'm like, we clearly deserve not to win this game.
Yes.
And you clearly should be partying. Right?
Exactly. That's right.
You guys just won they said a couple years ago when Latvia upset USA in the quarterfinals.
Yep.
That they declared the next day a holiday in Latvia. And like this would have been even bigger to go into Canada in that country and beat Canada. Like I can only imagine what the Latvian fans were thinking back home. So good on you, Latvia. I was kind of secretly rooting for them the whole time.
Yep.
We share this common liking for Finland.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm Finnish. I'm half Finnish.
Yeah.
And so I always love cheering for Finland.
Yeah.
And
me too. I'm not half finished, but I do like cheering for them, right? I've always just for some reason had a soft spot for them, and I really wish they would have pulled it out. So.
Yeah. I was just so thrilled to see, because honestly, partway through the tournament, I was like, I don't think Finland's going to the finals.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. They're like, not that they were doing bad, but they're in Group A with USA and Canada.
Yeah, they had a tough road.
Latvia. And so I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But honestly, in Canada, okay, so just to clear up, Latvia versus Canada when they beat us in the overtime, the shootout, that was like, you can't even say that Latvia only won because Canada phoned it in, but Canada did phone it in. You know? Like it was anyway. Okay, we're gonna lose people that aren't into hockey here.
We had so many shots in that game, but we just couldn't bury the puck, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say this too, because the next game we played against was Germany.
Yeah.
Was a night later at 6:00. We had to play Germany.
Yeah.
And I don't think Canada in our history of hockey has ever been nervous about a game against Germany.
Yeah.
And we were all a little nervous because we just lost to Latvia, right?
Yeah, dude.
So I think everybody was a little bit out of it, but
and Germany beat Latvia, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
So interesting.
It is a strange
just
tournament.
the weird. Yeah, but okay. So just in case any of you who are listening and watching, I hope we haven't lost you guys if you're not into hockey. But honestly, even if you're not into sports, World Juniors, it's like during that lull time. If you have any holidays like after Christmas, it starts Boxing Day, right?
Yeah.
And it just goes right up until like the second week of January, basically.
Yeah.
Or the first week. It's always good. It's always fun.
Yeah. One of the best tournaments of the year.
Yeah. So Northern Manitoba Blizzard.
Yeah.
Like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Junior A team. They're doing good this year.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of cheered for them because like living up in Thompson, this would have been my team, right?
Big time.
And I had a good friend, very close friend of mine, who used to be one of the managers for the team too.
Yep.
And he's now managing other teams in Southern Manitoba. But so I don't know. I've always had like a soft spot for them.
Do you like the Moose?
I'm kind of indifferent on the Moose, to be honest with you. I do like them, but I've never gone to a game.
Actually, Alyssa's cousin.
Isn't that strange?
Alyssa's cousin plays for the Moose.
Okay, then I love him.
Ashton Sotner.
Then I love him.
He used to. Yeah. Anyway, I won't go in talking about that. But suffice it to say, it was a fun holiday.
It was a fun holiday.
Good time. You had downtime.
Yep.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
And the question is as follows. I can't remember it.
Okay.
So I have to think about it all over again.
I got one for you.
Okay, tell me.
Have you packed up your tree yet?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay, good. Good. I like it.
No.
I appreciate this.
Hey, Jordan.
So,
too far, man.
too far?
Too far. You packed up your tree, didn't you?
Well, I'm going to say this. My wife packed up our tree.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Because we have a little bit of like a disagreement on this, right?
Okay. You guys butt heads?
She's convenienced me a little bit though. We have like what we call like some winter trees that just have clear lights on them.
Yeah.
And one of them just stays up in the dining room, and we have a couple little ones that we put around the house just to give us some light at this time of year.
Yeah.
Because I do like the light still.
Little
but
razzle
I
dazzle.
think for her, she really feels like when the tree's down, it's a new year. Let's go get back to work kind of thing, right? For me, I could leave that thing up till mid-February, and I'd probably enjoy it every day, right?
Ours will probably be up for the most part through January.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. I could even take off all the decorations, but just leave those lights on there,
Interesting.
and I'd be okay with that.
You know, sometimes we've taken down the tree and left up some garland.
Yes. I can see that.
It's interesting because garland throughout the year gets very tacky. But
Yeah.
in the wintertime, you're just like,
I know. If you had that up in the summer, it'd just be pure clutter.
Yeah, it's gross.
So,
Very gross. Okay, so the question I had for you
all right.
was, did you... I forgot it again. Oh, no.
Was it holiday related or was it winter?
It was holiday related.
Okay.
I was literally about to say it, and then I forgot it again. I didn't write it down or anything because it was just a genuine question based off of our conversation.
I didn't have waffles.
Oh,
Is that what you're wondering?
No?
No. Okay.
But now I am wondering, did you have waffles?
No, I didn't have
Ah,
waffles.
son of a
I
gun.
didn't have waffles.
Okay.
No.
Well, I was going to ask you about your Christmas break. Was there anything crazy that happened? Like
Okay.
any funny stories or anything? Because if not, I have one, but I want to know if you have one.
I don't know if I do. I think ours was pretty chill.
Yeah.
We had a good time at church. We had a good time just with the girls, and my wife's folks came in kind of around New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
We had a blast there, hanging out with them a little bit. Went to a Blades game. Went skating. Skating was fun.
Yeah.
Did that. Yeah, it was good.
Skating is awesome.
I love skating.
I haven't gone skating
My
yet
love
this
for it
year.
has been renewed this year. So
Wow, good
yeah,
for you, man.
I had so much fun doing it.
You're a good skater.
So,
you were always a
I
hockey
can be.
guy.
I can be. Yeah.
Can be.
Yeah, I'm better now. Yeah. So Yeah.
It better be better.
Yeah.
Come on. Well, I have a story for you, and it's really nothing to do with the holidays except that it happened over the holidays. And I just want to throw this at you to figure out, like, what would you do in this situation?
All right. I want to answer you.
Okay, so I was walking through the drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up something called micellar water. You heard of this before?
Nope.
Yeah, well, I know what it is now because my wife uses it. So I was picking up micellar water, and I walked down the aisle. This is just a preamble that really has nothing to do with the actual story. I walked down the aisle, and this person working at the store is like, "Can I help you find something?" Because they think, well, I'm just assuming they see some guy looking fairly disheveled walking down like a makeup aisle,
Yeah.
and is like, "Can I help you find something?" And I was like, "I'm here for micellar water," and I just like reach onto the shelf and pick it up. I felt pretty cool. Just want to let you know. Okay, so that has nothing to do with the story, but
Okay.
I just want to brag myself.
I like
up
where
a
this
little
is
bit.
going already.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, this is good.
I mess around with cosmetics every now and again,
I appreciate it.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
so no big deal. But
Okay. Cellar water.
maybe you should put a little respect on my name now.
Did
Did you say cellar water?
cellar? Is that what you called it? What did you call it?
No, it's micellar water.
My cellar water.
Yeah, as in I own,
Yeah.
and then cellar water, like when it rains and
I've
you get
obviously
water in
never
your
picked
cellar.
this up, eh?
It's not like that at all, but it's like a makeup. It's a makeup, like a face cleaning thing.
Nice.
Anyway, not the point.
Okay.
The point is, I'm pretty good at drugstores. But as I was leaving, I'm walking out and I see this dude sitting on a stool.
Mm-hmm.
And in my peripherals, I'm like, oh, they must have got a security guard at this drugstore. I go there all the time, but I've never noticed a security guard or anything. Maybe it's because of the holidays, whatever, you know? And this guy's just sitting on a stool, like staring straight forward. So I'm thinking, that's a security guard. Like, why is there a guy right beside cash? And that's the other thing, right beside cash. Like, you know how they walk out from behind the counter at a store? Right there. Like, they would have to walk around him to get out from behind the counter.
Okay.
So I'm like,
He's
this
just
guy
sitting there.
works here, right? He must.
I would think so.
But then I'm like, wait, he's not wearing a uniform. I'm collecting this information in my peripherals without staring at the guy, right? Like, I'm just kind of walking by. So all of this happens within a span of like 3 seconds. But in my head, the things are just like, thoughts are running here. And he's just wearing normal clothes. But he's just staring straight forward, like not even looking at me as I walk by. He's not got a phone out. He's not reading something. He's not waiting for anybody, presumably. I thought for a second that one of the cashiers was helping him, but then she just steps away and he continues sitting there. And she was doing something else. And so I'm like, what is this guy doing? And I realize there's a border behind him that's lit up. Like he's like illuminated.
Okay.
Like it's like a big wall of light. And he's just sitting there shining, staring straight forward. And I was like, oh, a passport photo maybe. Maybe this drugstore started doing that. There's no camera. So I look around, there's no tripod without a camera. There's nobody coming back with a camera. But this dude is just sitting in front of like this big white square of light, just staring straight forward. And I was just like, what is this guy doing? And so the question I have for you, Jordan,
Yeah.
are you ready for the question?
I'm ready for it.
Can you say question?
Question.
Yes. The question is, would you have asked that guy what is he doing?
Probably not.
Would you just walk by?
I might have, like, maybe if I would have saw someone working like down one of the aisles on my way out or something.
Yeah.
I might have been like, you know, is there a reason why that person's just kind of sitting there, kind of thing, right? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
have tried to get the information that way, but I probably wouldn't have engaged. I don't think,
Well,
not in that moment, because I would have been like nervous to be like, well, maybe he's there for a purpose. Who knows, right?
He's just a dude.
Yeah.
He's just a chill guy.
Yeah.
But this is the thing is, I'm kind of like you where I wouldn't say anything. And he didn't seem suspicious to me for any reason. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's because of his age or how well he was dressed or the fact that he's perfectly still. And there's a cashier 2 feet away from him for some reason.
Yeah.
But not interacting with him. And I was just like, so this guy doesn't seem like a problem, but why is he there? And the lack of camera and the lack of, he was so focused staring straight forward. It was like somebody was taking a picture of him. I literally looked up to see if there's a camera mounted somewhere where he was like, and I didn't want to walk in front of it. You know, like I had to like kind of
Yeah.
be like, do I walk by? Like, is the camera way down the aisle? It's just got a super like long throw lens. Like,
When you left, was he still there?
yeah, he just continued
you
sitting
look,
there
Did you
staring.
look back in to see if he'd walked off yet or anything?
Well, you see, the windows are kind of covered, so I couldn't
okay.
tell.
Shoot,
but
shoot.
it was a situation where it made me think, like, is this like if this was? It felt like a setup for a social experiment video on YouTube. You know, those
Well, that's what I
annoying
wondered.
videos
That's what
where
I
it's
wondered.
like,
I was thinking that. I was thinking maybe someone's like videotaping the reactions of people.
yeah,
In this
why
moment.
didn't you offer this guy some food when you walked by? It's
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah,
he's
you'll
just,
end up
just a
being-
dude in a drugstore.
Yeah.
I don't know, like
Exactly.
But you know, like it makes me think, what if it was a setup? So it wasn't.
Yeah.
Presumably,
Did you say Merry Christmas?
I didn't say a word to the guy, man.
Okay.
I just walked by kind of being like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it would have been odd.
just sitting there staring straight forward. And I'm hoping that at some point I find like a YouTube video where it's like, look at all these people ignore this guy who's obviously waiting for help, so that it could just explain it. I don't care if I look stupid.
For this video now.
Yeah,
because now
please
that you brought
do.
it up, so
I don't care if I look like a bad guy. I just want to explain it because I'm like, why was he?
What happened?
Anyway,
some things we just don't get the answers for right away, eh? But
sometimes we have to wait
I hope you find
to the
your
other
answers.
side of eternity to figure these things out. You know?
Wow.
Questions I'll ask God when I get there. You know? What was that guy doing?
Yeah. You've written this down, haven't you?
Was he an angel? You know, the way he glowed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, Jordan, that's my holiday story. There's
Wow.
lots of nice little heartwarming stories, but that one was the most interesting in my opinion.
I liked your holiday story. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for listening.
Yes.
And another thing,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for parlaying with me.
Okay, let's parlay.
You ready to parlay?
Let's do it. Parlay.
Yum yum. Get you some parlay time.
Yum.
Nailed it, man.
Yeah,
you really
had to
took it
come
home
in with something at that point.
Well, you closed it. You closed it good. I think people would think we prepared that. That's how good it was.
Wow.
Well, what we're going to parlay about is New Year's resolutions.
There we go.
So the parlay we're going to actually get into is should you or should you not make New Year's resolutions?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to come out right off the top and say that I am a pro New Year's resolution guy.
Okay.
And you
Yep.
might not be against other people doing it. You're not going to be a jerk about it, but you don't make New Year's resolutions, do you?
Not necessarily, no. But I have in the past. I have done it before.
Yep.
I'll always set like little goals and thoughts out on paper sometimes, but like not a resolution per se.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
does that make sense?
That's just your diary.
Sort of.
So you're just telling me that you
I'll
continue
journal.
to
I'll journal
write.
a little bit. Yeah, I'll journal a bit on this
You
stuff.
continue to write in your diary through the new year, but you don't call it a resolution.
Well, I used to do this thing back when I was in college, where I attended a group where every year they would like do like a goal setting service, like goal setting night for the new year.
Okay.
And you'd get a sheet with like 7 different areas, and you would just write something in there based on what you want to see happen in that area. So I always found that kind of like it's not really helpful, but focusing a little bit.
Yep.
And so I think now that I don't, go do that exact same thing, every now and then there would be some thoughts that I have going into a new year where it's like, yeah, I would like to do this more, or I would like to read more, I would like to hit this place more, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I am a resolution guy all the
Okay.
time. Like I like to make resolutions. I like to say, this is when I start. This is the deadline. I'm going to do this thing.
Okay.
In my personal life, like in work, that's just how people work. That's just called a job.
Yes.
So I'm not talking about that, but I mean like just for personal stuff,
That's fair.
So I'll set goals in January where I think it's great that at the turnover of a new year, we can say intentionally like, I want to actually envision something new for me. And I think it's kind of funny because we just attack this from a pop culture standpoint, and I'm kind of hoping you lean into this a bit and play devil's advocate with me here a little bit, but like attack it from the point of it's like new year, new me, like teasing people that are like, yeah, this is going to change everything. And then like now you can see like gym culture is not just for gym culture people anymore. It's actually like online all over the place, right? So you'll see reels and TikToks and shorts or whatever about people being like the gym in January be like, and it's just like people being stupid on exercise equipment. And it's like, the idea is we're mocking everybody for big false start, for everybody being so interested in trying something new.
Yeah.
And to me, I say shame on you for shaming the people who want to have a resolution.
Yes.
Now, I get that we shouldn't necessarily be unrealistic with what we resolve to do, but like it's good for people to say, hey, I have a chance to turn over a new leaf.
Yeah.
I'm going to use this as a demarcation in my life. I'm going to do something new. So what do you think about that?
I like it.
Come on, Jordan.
I know I'm supposed to parlay
You
with
gotta
you,
debate me,
and I'm
man.
supposed to fight you on this and come out and go on the other side. Now, the thing I don't like about resolutions is that I think in my mind, and this is where I lose. This is where they don't hit me like they used to. Is I've never really kept one very well.
Okay.
And I don't know. I guess maybe I do something like this, but I prefer just setting goals. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And maybe that's what resolutions are for a lot of people.
I
is
think
a goal
so.
for this year, right?
I think so.
So maybe in some odd way, I do kind of think ahead that way. And I agree with you. I think, like, when people set out to do something new, I'm cheering you on. Like, I hope it goes well. I hope it goes awesome, right? Like, the gym's more full. Like, awesome. That's good news, right?
Go to the gym and be inexperienced.
Yeah,
right?
it's good
Why
to
not?
see. Get in there, right?
Also, gyms would close down if they didn't have impulsive memberships.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. The gym must feast though early in the year, I assume,
For
right?
real. Yeah,
must do well. So, but no, I think that kind of stuff is good. Like, I honestly, I can't oppose New Year's resolutions. I just maybe go about them a little bit differently than I used to in the past. What's popular nowadays, I'm finding, is that people like to choose a word to represent their year. Have you heard about, like, have you done this before?
Yeah, I heard somebody doing this recently. Funny that you mentioned it on a podcast. They said, "What's my word for this year?" And they
maybe we listened to the same podcast, because I recently heard this too.
Really?
And somebody they had people chime in on what their word was for this coming year, right? And some people chose balance. Some people chose, like,
one guy
hope.
chose peace, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
we all want peace.
Absolutely.
Guy.
But like I know people who've done this in years past, and I've kind of done it, I guess, but maybe not, like, again, just like a resolution, maybe not have seen it through the whole year per se, right? But I do like the idea behind it, because it gives you something to aim towards.
I would never get on board with that, though.
No?
Personally,
I haven't.
like, no shame for other people, but I'm actually going to parlay with you a little bit here.
All right,
okay?
let's
I'm
do
gonna
it.
Disagree with you a bit here,
Okay, let's fight.
as if that's your sentiment. But
All right.
and we need some blood in these parlays, okay?
All
we
right.
got to cut our
Let's
teeth
do
on
it.
each other
Let's
a little
do it.
bit. Okay, well, all I'm saying is that I find, like, words for seasons and stuff, like themes, emerge over time. Like, they show themselves out. Like, it's not like I can't go into this year and be like, my theme for this year is steadfastness. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, in March I might know,
Yeah.
because it might kind of start to prove itself as a theme.
By the end of the year, you might be able to look back and say that was my theme, right?
That was my year of I don't know, whatever word.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like,
Did you have a theme last year that revealed itself to you?
Not really. Well, I mean, like, lots went on in my life last year, but I never identified a firm theme. There have been years where I've been like, this has been my year of, like, testing and trying and, like, proving, Yeah. And I don't mean proving as in, like, proving yourself, but, like, proving as in the process of, like, making things more clear and whatever. But so I could identify that as, like, a past thing, but it's I don't know. I just think that kind of tacks on to the part of resolutions that I think a lot of people find themselves resistant towards, which is, like, a resolution. The actual term would be to, like, I resolve to, and lots of people, the reason they might kind of kick back on resolutions is it's like, don't make these grand statements where you're going to resolve to do it. Like, you're making a liar out of yourself almost, right? Because it's like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to fall off.
Yeah, I don't like that, though. And this is where we're not going to fight, because I think, better to have some ambition and set something out there than to just not do it for the sake of maybe you're not going to keep it, right?
I would maybe call them goals more than resolutions, actually, now that we're talking about it.
That's kind of what I do. I set some goals. I have some stuff in my head that I want to get to, and some years I do better than others.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that it's interesting to consider resolutions, and I hope that whatever you set for goals and stuff have, I hope that they become something that is useful for you, just like I hope that my resolutions are something that are useful for me. That's the other thing, is I don't necessarily, like, solemnly instate them at the beginning of the year. It's just things that I'm like, yeah, I've decided I'm going to make this change in my life,
Sounds good.
But resolutions, let us know in the comments. You can tell us, what do you think? Do you make a resolution? Maybe you want to share what yours is. If yours is, like, super dark and broody, like, I promise to stop stealing my coworker's shoes or something, like, maybe you don't need to tell us that, but you can tell us, something that you plan to do this year.
Yeah.
Tell us something that, or if you just think it's completely bunk and you would not make a resolution with a gun to your head, then tell us that too.
Yeah.
Like,
if you have a word and you want to disagree with Ethan on this one, leave us
What's
your word.
What's the word? So, and if you say bird is the word, I'm going to lose it.
Are you?
I'm going to lose it.
Okay, the comment section will be filled.
Just bird is the word.
With your rebuttals.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's it for Parley. Thank you, Jordan, for
Not fighting with
having
you?
the most gentle fight of all time. Me
Sorry.
and you are just too much on the same page with some stuff.
I think so.
So even if we don't talk about it ahead of time,
That's it.
we end up.
From now on, we're only doing politics. So, so
We both just end up, well, I could land on either side of that issue.
Yeah.
That's, good parlay. Okay, well, that's it for parlay. Now it's time for, you guess what it is. What is it?
in the neighborhood.
That's right, in the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood.
Let's go, in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So this past weekend,
Yeah.
did you total fumble a play or what?
I don't think so.
Did you drop a bomb?
No, I felt good about it. I felt good about it. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Well, because I spoke this weekend at the Neighbourhood Church,
I wasn't there.
and I spoke the week before too.
I wasn't there either.
That week, I kind of talked about not resolutions. I did read a top 10 list of like the top 10 New Year's resolutions out there.
Like 1920 versus like
No,
1440.
no, 2025 list, 2024 list. Sorry, I read one.
Okay.
And
I thought you were talking about screen resolutions.
No, New Year's resolutions.
'Kay.
And I talked about our past, present, and future. I talked about how everyone has a past, and it can influence us in different ways, and we can learn from it. And in some cases, it can hold us back too, if we hold on to it too much. I talked
Okay.
about the present, and I talked about the future. How God's plan isn't for your past, even though He can use the past.
Yeah.
His plan is for your present, and what you do in the present often creates the future.
Right.
And so I talked about that a little bit, but this past week I was kind of figuring, like, with this whole resolution talk and this idea of setting goals for the new year, we talked about the heart and the condition of the heart. Monitoring your heart, I think, is what I titled the message.
The heart wants what it wants.
There you go. That was help me
Selena
out.
Gomez.
There you go. I was going to say Ariana Grande. So
That's what I said earlier.
yeah, you threw me
I
off.
messed it up.
So
Dag nabbit.
But yeah, we talked about the heart, and that scripture in Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Right? And it's a pretty deep verse when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
And then I talked about Jesus and his story from Mark chapter 7, where his disciples are eating supper without washing their hands, which, just from a purely germs perspective, I sort of understand why the religious teachers were upset about that.
Are you a germaphobe or what?
Well, I just say you try to wash my hands before I eat, right?
Not for religious reasons.
But
just
that was the problem, is they were doing it for tradition reasons, right?
Yeah,
And Jesus kind of got upset with them because they approached him saying, like, why aren't your followers washing their hands before they eat, right?
no Purell.
And then he says, you hypocrites, right? And talks about how you honor me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
from Isaiah.
Yeah, and then he goes on to talk about, like, it's not what enters a person that makes them unclean from the outside, it's what comes out from the inside, right? Which really is it would have been backwards language for that culture, and even in a lot of ways the cultures that maybe we grew up in to an extent.
How so?
And then I'll explain in a second. Jesus goes on to basically say, like, because out of the overflow of the heart comes like all these things, like and the mouth even speaks, right, from what's happening on the inside. And I think it's backwards talk, because, like, I think when I first came to church, and I'm not laying any blame or accusations on anybody, but a lot of the teaching in the place I was in was, don't do this, don't watch this, don't go to that movie, don't listen to that music, don't hang out with those people, right?
Yeah.
Because that's going to corrupt you. That's going to, that's all that stuff out there is going to make its way into you and have a bad effect on you. And I don't think that that's always completely wrong. I think that, there probably are some things we probably could avoid. But I'm not starting there anymore. Like, Jesus seemed to start with, well, what's happening in your heart? What's happening on the inside? It's not the things out there that you have to worry about. It's the things in here, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea is that we trust God to search our hearts, to reveal things to us in our hearts. And as we bring our hearts before God, as we do a little heart monitoring and heart checking kind of thing, I believe that, we can fix things better inside. That's going to help us make the choices of what we don't want to see or don't want to do or don't want to partake in, per se. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
But Jesus really brought up the language of, like, check your heart. And then I used some examples from the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus says, don't murder, right? And people could be like, okay, never did that. But then he takes it further and says, and if you're on your way to sacrifice at the altar and on your way you realize you have a division with a brother or sister, leave your gift there, go reconcile, make that right, and then come back. And, then he talks about, not letting anger and stuff grow in your heart, the things that can lead to that first possibility. But he amplifies the commandments. He deepens them, right?
Yeah.
They're no longer just outward actions. They're inward realities that he wants us to experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The next example he says is, you've heard it said, don't commit adultery. And some people could be like, okay, never did that. And then he says, and I tell you, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully in his heart has committed adultery. And so he makes it a heart issue. He turns everything inwardly. And so I just figured for the start of the year, as we look at a new year, one thing that we rarely do sometimes as humans is we rarely, I think, check our hearts.
Yeah.
And I wonder if and here's why I think we do this. I'm just going to get into my talk. You ready?
How about you just do it?
Okay. Here's why we do this is because I think we've been taught as kids to modify our behavior. Behavior modification is something that we've learned, we've grown up with.
Yeah.
And in some ways, we've made it an end in itself. I used an example of the movie A Christmas Story with Ralphie, the Shoot Your Eye Out movie, right?
Yep.
And there's a scene there where he says a bad word, and the next scene, he's at home with a piece of soap in his mouth. Oh. Right? And he knew, just like any kid, like, as long as you don't say that, you're not going to end up with the soap in your mouth, right? So he probably after that started to modify his behavior to ensure that he never ended up with a soap in his mouth, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't mean his heart changed, though. It didn't mean he still didn't have those words coming out. It still didn't mean that he didn't say those things in private, right?
Or that his heart was still meaning that.
Exactly.
Like the sentiment was still there, even if you didn't use the word.
Yeah, but like we often modify our behavior in order to avoid certain outcomes or certain disciplines or certain consequences.
Yeah.
So we're good at behavior modification, but it doesn't necessarily mean our hearts are in the place that they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think in our world, we just have to do that sometimes. At work, if you want to keep your job, there are certain ways you have to behave, whether you want to or not, right?
Yep.
And I used one more example from a movie. Do you remember the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey?
Yes.
He played
inappropriate.
Yes, he played a lawyer called Fletcher. Well, maybe. I don't know. I think I said in my sermon, I don't endorse this because I honestly can't remember it. So
I think it's mostly just funny.
But the whole point behind the movie was his biggest asset was his ability to lie, right? And his son wishes that his dad just for 24 hours would have to say everything that came to his mind. That he wouldn't be able to lie.
And he's got that court case at the end where he has to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like what happens the whole movie is like normally those things that we bite our tongues on, like, if you ever get into like a talk with someone, you bite your tongue, you walk away.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey has to say everything. So it's awkward, it's rude, it's crude, right? Like he literally anything he's thinking about someone rises to the surface, and it all comes from probably what's been stirring around in his heart, right?
Yeah.
And I think I asked us the question, like, if we had to spend a day like that, do you think we would probably get a little bit more motivated to deal with the source of what ails us, right?
Yeah.
And so the heart's a big deal. And for Jesus, it was a big deal. He took a way of living, a kingdom way of living that for a lot of people was just don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and really a checklist, right? And he made it like like what I care about is your heart, and I want to occupy that, right?
Yeah, I think maybe if we saw the repercussions like Jim Carrey did in Liar Liar, if we saw the repercussions of our internal, issues externally, like you're saying, we'd probably be pretty unhappy about, first of all, that being exposed to everybody, but second of all, the negative impacts it would have on people, right? Because like you're saying, we're used to, it's just like, well, the actual behavior, the action is the only thing that actually yields any consequence. Yeah. So you can have resentment towards somebody, it doesn't matter. But if what was inside just came out, and it will. Yes. That's the tricky thing.
Eventually rises to the surface, right?
Yeah, that's really good, man. I'm glad that you spoke that sermon, that you had that topic. That's like really good and challenging and important for us to take a look at.
Yeah, it was kind of heavy, if I'm to be honest with you, but like because I take it very serious myself, and like at the end I read from the Psalms, like David always prayed things like create me a pure heart, or give me an undivided heart, or search me, O God, and know my heart, right? Like
he's a very honest guy too.
Yeah, like it's just bringing that reality before God and allowing him to, because the other side of this all too, like the joy in this is that God's there to help us, and he's there to help us in the things that we're weak in and where we need his strength and help to get through, right?
Yeah.
But you have to start with being honest in order to even get there, right?
Kind of makes me think about like some scary prayers.
Yeah.
That you can pray, the prayers that take you up to that place of working out your faith in fear and trembling, as the scripture says.
Yeah.
Kind of a scary prayer is to say, like, search my heart.
Yeah, it is.
To actually say, like, God, show me what's wrong with me. Yeah. Like, show me what's going on. Because that's like, if you actually are at a place where you're ready for God to show you that stuff, he will.
Yeah.
That gets pretty deep pretty quick, doesn't it?
It is. And a lot of the times it'll offend our minds, right?
Yep.
And so maybe that's just it. Sometimes God does offend our minds to reach our hearts.
Yeah, well, and hey, nice line. That's good. God offends our minds to reach our hearts.
I'm gonna keep that one.
But but that's totally true in the sense that like we also sometimes just need to be confronted with things because we compartmentalize internally as well, right?
I think so.
We're like, we can have an image of ourselves where we look pretty good. We look like the protagonist of our story.
Yeah.
And then when God confronts us with the ugly things happening inside of us, I think that we have to face the facts. Like, I'm not really, like, I don't like how I am, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not about disliking yourself on a base level.
No.
But it's about feeling loved by God enough where you can say, I'm ready to confront the ugly parts of me because God will walk me through it, you know? And it doesn't make you think less of yourself, but it changes yourself from having rose-tinted glasses looking at yourself like, I'm never in the wrong.
Yes.
All these arguments with my friends and all these issues and blah, blah, that's all on them and it's their problem. And to look at yourself and be like, I'm kind of the problem here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said there, I love too, that God will walk you through it too. Right. And that's a hopeful part of the message. I didn't want to just leave people like, boom, like, look at your heart. And if it
sounds like you guys suck.
Yeah. But like, no, but look at your heart. But remember that he's with you. He strengthens you. He walks with you. He's going to help you. He's going to empower you. Right. And it's not going to be something that just changes overnight either. Right. But it's a process. But at the same time, I do think, you know, when you're thinking of New Year's, when you're thinking of goals and stuff like that, a great place to start is like, where's my heart at, right? And,
totally.
And we say things like that in life, right? Like you might ask me, what is your heart saying on this issue? Or if you ever want to talk with someone and it's like one of those talks where you don't like just like do fluff. Yeah. You say something like, let's have a heart to heart.
Yep.
Which actually means like, we're going to go deep here, right?
Yeah.
Unlike our parlays, right? Like...
Don't get me started about that.
Right.
More like
you got nothing, do you?
No.
You got nothing. So, but no, like that's kind of what we talked about this past week. And just, I think it's just a good reminder sometimes for us to always look at. And I know studying for it and preparing for it was good for me. And I found myself even in my walks throughout last week, like, you know, praying things like, you know, praying these things, right? And asking God for his help on it. Because you can't talk about something like that and not sit there and take a little personal inventory, right?
Exactly. So, you know. And what a blessing it is to do that.
It is actually.
Comes full circle to what we're talking about with resolutions and stuff, you know, is the idea that it's good for us to have habits where we say, this is a demarcation in my life. I'm going to make a habit, or I'm going to make a resolution, you know. And I think that God doesn't want static Christians. I was trying to think about whether I want to say that statement as I started saying it, but I think that's just it. Like, I don't think that Jesus wants people to get saved to be static. Yeah. Like, I think there's a dynamic life for us, and that requires some introspection and some observing of yourself. And
for sure.
None of us want to be that church person that people talk about as being a church person who's just a big hypocrite. Yeah. You know, like, let's look at some things. Let's let God break our hearts a little bit and show us some stuff that might be tough to work through. Yeah. But is important for us to be reanimated and to have a new self, to be renewed, right? Yeah, I'm like be made new by the, you know, I'm blanking on the passage here. Be transformed by the renewing of our minds. You know, that's about you know, reformation and transformation. So
absolutely. As I was thinking about this past week, I'll throw one more comment out, and I didn't mention this in the message, but it did get me thinking too that you know, as growing up in like cultures where it's like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And you're really just learning like the things that you shouldn't do. And a lot of that can become kind of more like just outward decisions you make in order to present a certain image or certain like allegiance. Right. Like, do we trust, like in the church, are we trusting the Holy Spirit to move in people's lives? Like, or do we feel like we need to do it for them by saying, well, you can't do this, but just this radical idea of let the Lord lead a person, let the Lord speak to a person, let the Lord reveal things to a person. Yeah. It feels refreshing. It feels good. And in some people's situations, I bet you it feels foreign to you in your church experience. Is that fair? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, we want people to be more performative. Yeah. Before they've necessarily had like this is taboo words and stuff, but like an encounter, you know? Yeah. And I think each of us need to also, if we're going to work on that, what you've just stated,
Yeah.
let the Holy Spirit poke things and prod things and show people things.
Yeah.
That means that we also have to be willing to open our ears to that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so it's great for us to say, well, I don't need to be dealing with somebody's stuff because that's something for God to point out. It's like, okay, but then open up yourself too, right?
Yeah.
So like to, be ready for the Holy Spirit to poke and prod you and say, hey,
Yeah.
Ethan,
Well, that's it.
check this out.
That's it.
Take a peek at this.
Yeah. When I first had my first experience with like kind of like Christian faith, was my mom became a Christian, and she was very much like, well, now we can't watch much music. Now we can't do this. Now we can't do this. Right. And
You were
really,
like, dang!
It really turned me off a lot. Right. But then when I came to faith, probably as like a, where I consider was quite genuine when I was 18. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden she was like, I'll pray for you and let the Lord lead you. And there was just such a freedom in that I found. Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just a thought.
Yeah. One more thing I want to say. Sorry,
Please do it.
You keep on saying such good stuff.
Please do it.
I guess I should probably listen to your sermons, even though it wasn't my own. But the idea of kind of your perspective, like, faith being introduced later on. So I was raised in a house of Christian faith, and I grew up, even though my parents were very intentional about teaching me about the heart mattering and stuff, I still grew up knowing how to work the system a little bit, with performance-based faith and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And there came an age for me where I rejected that. And I was like, wait, I don't need to not watch this or do that or talk like this or dress like that or whatever to be a Christian. I can do what I want. And there's kind of like also a rebellious attitude hidden in there, which I think was like an important life stage, but I'm thankful I grew out of it. Because we also can't be juvenile like that,
That's
right?
true.
Where it's like, well, it doesn't matter what I do. It's like,
exactly.
well, actually, when your heart is changed, your actions will change too,
That's
so
it.
we're not supposed to police other people's actions to say, well, it looks like your heart hasn't changed because your actions aren't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't be those jerky Christians that are like, it doesn't matter what I do.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
And what you said is just it too. All of a sudden, it's not don't. It's that your heart's been, the Lord's worked on your heart. It's changed. It's like, I'm not going to. I'm not going to. Right. So,
and you even lose the desire to.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly
like
it.
For the things that matter
Yeah.
and for your context. When you have kids, you start to care about different things and you're like, maybe I'm not going to say these words at home anymore or whatever, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it's like that changes because of your situation, because of your circumstances. We could talk about this forever, but
right.
go listen to his sermons. They are on YouTube.
There you go.
They're
Facebook.
on our website, Facebook, the Neighbourhood Church.
Yeah.
Pastor Jordan's laying down some, and on SoundCloud.
There
nice.
you go. And on SoundCloud.
Pastor Jordan's laying down some beefy tracks, He's really beefing
My
it up.
mixtape,
Your mixtape is just like six sermons.
It's not my mixtape.
Just 6 hours of mixtape. Well, that was In the Neighborhood. Thank you, Jordan. And let's move into the final segment of the show for today. You ready?
I'm ready.
How about you?
How about you?
So how about you?
How about those Blue Jays?
You know what? Blue Jay season starts in 2.5 months, which is crazy to think.
Oh my gosh, I don't actually want to know.
Yeah.
Please don't talk to me
2.5
about
months.
the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Jordan, I don't want to talk about it.
Thanks for reminding me.
Have you ever heard people say that before? How about them Blue Jays?
I have.
That's like a colloquialism, right?
I think so.
I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
Why do people say that?
I have no idea.
I'm sorry for being so harsh on you
All
just now
right.
about the Blue Jays.
Gee.
I'm sorry.
Calm.
I'll watch the Blue Jays like 3 times a year.
Yeah, that's good. Baseball is kind of boring to watch, if I'm going to be honest with you. So
Yup.
yeah, it's one of those sports that's like,
Yeah.
so I love
You're
watching
like,
golf.
if I had, okay.
Sorry,
Golf is
producer
a
Ashley just looked at me and said, "You watch golf," and I could watch golf.
Golf is a
all
napping
day.
sport, Jordan.
No,
That's a napping
I love
sport.
golf. I
don't know.
get paced during a golf tournament.
I bet you have your phone out during a golf game. If you're watching golf, you're also reading articles. You're probably looking at stuff.
Yeah, kind of. I think to an extent.
So it's not great to watch, is it?
It's not intense.
It's great to
beautiful.
have on in the
It's
background.
relaxing. So for the Olympics last year, when they were like the Summer Olympics we had,
Yes.
I ruined one of my days because I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch the golf finals because the golf finals were played at that time. So like I'm committed to golf. I like
Okay.
watching golf.
Could you relax on the golf a
I'm
little
not,
bit?
I'm not apologizing for it.
Whoa. Okay, where were we? We're talking about how about you? How
Yeah.
about you? Okay, so
Resolutions.
I want to, first of all, reiterate that we want to hear your resolutions,
That's
any
right.
interactions you have, even the stuff we're talking about with Jordan's sermons,
That's right.
about the heart, the condition, and
Yeah.
changing, all of that stuff. We would love to hear your comments on that. But something I also want to challenge every watcher, viewer, listener, hearer,
Yep.
would you just tell us, is there something you want us to cover? Is there something you want us to talk about? Is there an idea where you're like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Would you talk about it?
That'd be fun.
Would you cover this news item? Whatever. Just go ahead and send us stuff. We really would like to have more interactions from you in How About You, where we can like interact directly with you. Your comments will impact what we say here. So if you're listening and watching regularly, like, why not throw something in there?
Agreed.
You want to hear what we think about pajamas.
Yes.
You want to hear what we think about how Christians should think about voting or whatever. Like, just throw anything out there.
Yeah.
Do you think aliens exist? I'll talk about that for an hour.
Yeah.
So, just let us know. How about you? This is your opportunity. And I think maybe we should make a little bit of a habit of just plugging this at the end of every episode. Give us your input and your thoughts on what you'd like us to do, as well as the comments on what we covered in this week's episode.
We want to hear from you. Okay,
Jordan. That's it.
That's it.
That's a wrap on episode 28 of Unedited.
I'll see you next time for episode 29.
Unedited is a ministry expression of the Neighbourhood Church. Hosted by Ethan Andrews and Jordan McClellan. Produced by Ashley Drayton. Voiceover by me, M. Curry. Watch us on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook. Or listen on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Thanks for listening.